Welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm your host, Anna Gray. The best thing about being a nurse and entrepreneur over the last 25 years are the relationships I've developed and the people I've met. As a legal nurse consultant, I wanted you to hear from those amazing people in the legal and healthcare communities. I wanted you to hear who they are and to celebrate them with me. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered. Let's dive into the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm really excited to share my guest today because we just spent a few extra minutes chatting ahead of time. And that is what I love about this podcast, is that it's a simple conversation. So I would love to welcome my guest, Maureen, to the podcast. Thank you, Maureen, for being here. And thank you for the lovely conversation ahead of time. And I'm really excited to dig in to
Thank you for having
learning
me.
more about you. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank
I appreciate you being here.
you.
Okay, Maureen, let's dive in to where in the world are you coming from? Where?
Well, actually, today, that's an interesting question. So where am I normally coming from is Arlington Heights, Illinois. It's like a good 20, 30 minutes northwest of Chicago.
Okay.
Today, I am in Columbia, Missouri. I am visiting my daughter at college this week. That's the beautiful thing about a nurse's schedule. Since we work, 3 days a week when you're full time, I have 4 days off a week. And so while I do wear a couple other hats, this particular week, I'm in between cohorts and my other job as a clinical instructor, and I didn't have any cases I needed to work on this week. And so I was like, I'm hitting the road. And so I'm spending 2 days in Columbia, Missouri with my second oldest daughter, who goes to University of Mizzou. And I'll spend Wednesday and Thursday at Illinois State in Normal Bloomington, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And Friday, back to the grind.
Mm-hmm. But boy, that sounds like a great in between. I know I can relate because I have two daughters myself that are away. So any opportunity you can get, you head out there. I love that. How far is that from where you're at?
I was just about to say, this daughter is 6 hours away. So this is the first time I've seen her since she left August 10th. She rushed for the sororities down here. So she left early. And that's the longest I've ever been away from her. She probably otherwise has been gone like a week.
Yeah.
So for her to be gone that long, we do FaceTime like every day, multiple times a day. I can't complain, but it's just, to actually get that physical hug and go out to dinner last night and stuff like that, to meet her sorority friends and tour the house. It was just, it's special.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful to actually see her.
Right. Yeah. I remember that first visit. Thankfully, my second one is not too far from me. She's actually in my old hometown. So it's an easy couple hours. But yeah, when that first hug on my oldest, because she's, in Arizona. So that's, a flight out, and that's about 6 hours, 6 hour drive. That first hug back on their first semester away. Oh, it was just so magical. So I totally can relate to that.
I'm thankful that she's so happy here. If she wasn't, it would be much more difficult. But she is thriving and so happy. So
that's great.
It makes it a lot easier.
That's great. That's great. Okay. So your hometown currently, have you always been in that hometown, or?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up a town or two away in Des Plaines, Illinois. And then went to high school in Elk Grove, Illinois. They're all right around each other. My first go with college was also at Illinois State University. So my daughter kind of went in my footsteps down there. Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been very, very close in the area.
Right. So when you went away to college, what did you go for? Did you go for nursing, or did you?
It's funny. I did go for nursing. Mm-hmm. Then I switched to education. Then I switched to business. because I started working at Walgreens when I was 16 years old, and I just kept getting promoted. And at the time, you had to be 18 to be a store manager in a store that didn't sell liquor, 21 to be a store manager in a store that did sell liquor. And I, for somebody that age to be making the amount of money that a Walgreens store manager makes, it was a lot. Right. And I thought, I'm never going to see this kind of money as a nurse or as a teacher. And so that really and I loved what I did. I loved working with people. I loved merchandising. And so I really kind of let that fuel my decision to switch to business. And I was a Walgreens manager for quite a few years until my path kind of got changed because personal decisions fueled it as well. I had had a couple children. I had gone through a divorce, but most importantly, both of my parents were diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer within a short time period. And both of them wanted to remain at home. I always say die at home, but that's so morbid. They wanted to. Yeah, they wanted to remain at home. And so I felt like that was the least I could do for them. My brother, felt the same way. And so we kept them at home, but that meant rearranging, our lifestyles. And so I stepped down to be an assistant manager so I could work at night. I moved in with them, brought the kids with me, and we got hospice and palliative care on board. And I felt those hospice nurses were just angels. I mean, just angels. They only come, maybe like twice a week because how much can they do? Right. But at the same time, that twice a week was just the fuel I needed to understand like what was going to happen with my parents, how we could make them more comfortable. I was never scared throughout the whole thing because of the hospice nurses. And I really felt like it was because of them that both of my parents had the most beautiful passing that they could have. Right. Something that was honestly not only a gift to them, but a gift to myself and my brother as well, So after they had passed away, I sort of was in this place in life where I'm like, okay, so now I'm divorced. I have a 0, 1, and 2-year-old. I've lost both of my parents in the last year. I'm an assistant manager at Walgreens. What am I going to do? I could have gone back up the ladder at Walgreens, or I could choose to do something else. And I just felt like those nurses, the impact they could have on someone else was just so profound to me. And I thought, I don't care how much money you make. I want to be that person who literally changes someone else's life. I know that sounds so cliche, but I've always told everybody, like, that's what I want to do. So I went back to school. I basically said to my then ex-husband and his mom, I said, this is something I would really love to do, but obviously I can't do it without your support. And so they both backed me up in different ways. And so I went back to school during the day and I worked at night. And I made it. First got my associate's degree because I needed to get work. I needed to make sure that I was working. Yep. And I couldn't keep living that lifestyle with, 3 little girls on my own. But got my associate's degree, got working. First job to come calling was labor and delivery, which oddly enough was not what I wanted. It was the last thing I wanted. When I went through nursing school, I felt like that clinical rotation was just so boring. And I thought, if I want to eventually be in hospice, which is out in the community completely on your own, I need a really firm, framework to my nursing knowledge. I have to know patients inside and where am I going to really get that? But probably ICU, neuro, ER,
Right.
you know, so that was where I wanted to be. And I thought, and as long as I'm going to do this for a while, Light for Life nursing would be a lot of fun. And you also need to work in those departments. So that was kind of what I had hoped for, but labor and delivery was the first job that reached out, and I thought, okay, you know, let's give this a try. And the hospital that I was employed at has a level 3+, which is the highest level NICU you can have in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that we take care of like the sickest of the sick moms and babies, highest acuity, babies with fetal anomalies, you know, moms with all sorts of conditions, babies who are having intrauterine fetal surgeries. And I have been there for 12 years, and I couldn't think of a better place for me to be. I love it. It is the best of both worlds. You get to be with patients on, you know, the best days of their lives. Sometimes you're with them on the worst day.
Right. Yeah.
But you also get to take care of very sick patients and really have a hand in, you know, determining, or at least being a part of that outcome. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't be more thankful for basically how the cards fell into place.
Like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you know, it's funny during nursing school, you know, your rotations in some departments are so short. I don't know how long it was for you in labor and delivery, but I remember mine was very short. So there really wasn't enough time to, you still judge it, but there wasn't really enough time to judge it. And I judged it too. It was like, okay, that's something that I don't want to do. But I really didn't give it a fair shake because I forget it was a few days or something. Was that the same thing for you? Did you have a long clinical rotation in labor and delivery?
No. So the class itself, I want to say it's called like Clinical Concepts of the Obstetrical Patient or something like that. Yeah. So it's not only labor and delivery, but it's also mother baby. Mm-hmm. And so the whole thing is 8 weeks.
Right.
So then your clinicals are only 7 weeks. And in that time, you know, the first one is practically wasted because it's getting used to the unit and, you know, your orientation and epic and all of that. Right. So now you've got 6 left, and you do 2 on labor and delivery, 2 with laboring patients, 2 with C-section patients, and then 2 with mother and baby. But that is not enough time to any of those, you know, which is really hard.
Yeah.
It's not like you said, it's not a fair snapshot to know if this is for you or not. So I think that's why I left it feeling like, oh, you know, is this enough, or is this what I want to do? I don't know. Right.
Well, it beats the OR rotation. I think most people get 2 days. So it's like definitely not a fair, and that they're just usually a deer in the headlights in the corner. So, So, okay. So you were totally blown away by once you started working. Wait, this is my calling, right? This is what I want to do.
I'm just,
so was there some, particular focus? I know because like you said, there are so many layers of that. Was there a particular focus that you really kind of thrived on or really enjoyed?
It's funny you ask that, because there is, you know, we have triage, we have antepartum, we have, I know I have some nurses I work with that are like, put me in the OR. They love to circulate every day. There's other nurses who want that antepartum patient. Then maybe in the beginning, I would say, and this also is something I get questioned about sometimes, I really almost incorporated that hospice nurse role into this because I very much gravitated towards our bereavement patients. I am on the bereavement committee, and I received training through Resolve Through Sharing, which is an organization that trains nurses for helping patients as they're experiencing a loss. And I definitely gravitated towards those patients who, you know, were experiencing a loss for one reason or another. Was it that the baby was too premature, or there was anomalies of some kind? Right. But I can say now it's all of it. I love my days when I'm in triage. You're talking very fast paced, multiple patients, all different diagnoses.
Right.
And a lot of the decision making falls on you. You're the one who's that first point of contact who needs to be able to think quickly on your feet and make good decisions and know who to call. The bereaved patients still have my heart. This is the worst day of their life.
Right.
And yet you might be able to make it a little bit better by simple things like just listening or just crying with them. When I'm training new nurses, they'll be like, I don't know if I can go in there. I'm probably going to cry. And I'm like, that's okay. That makes you, and that makes patient feel heard and feel seen and feel like it's okay for her to cry. My high acuity patients, when we're getting a report in the morning and I hear like this patient has an insulin drip and a magnesium drip and she's got this drip, I'm like, can I have that patient? Because I just love it. I want to see where is this day going to go, or if we have a detoxing patient or something else. And then when we have a center for fetal care patient and we're doing like an exit procedure where basically we're going to deliver just the fetal head and then the team is going to swoop in and put in a trach or something else before we deliver the rest of the baby. Amazing. I absolutely want to be in that surgery, so I love it all. I get such a passion for all of it as I've taken on different roles, like through doing a clinical supervisor or now with doing my legal consulting. I have people all the time that are like, when are you going to stop working bedside? Or is it the goal to stop working bedside? I'm like, that's actually not the goal at all because I still love working bedside. I just have no desire to not do that work anymore.
I can see why. I mean, it is kind of, you have the best of both worlds. I used to say this about jobs, and of course I say this to my kids too. Well, at least it's not boring. Your job is not boring, like you said, you thought it would be boring, but here you have so many layers to it that I can see why, every day is different, and why you could continue to do that on a regular basis. If it was monotonous, that's a different story. But like you said, you thrive on all of those events, and it's like, what kind of day is it going to be today? I can totally see why you wouldn't want to leave. Which
I love it.
I commend you.
I think I would be bored without it. I think if I took on just one of my different roles, I would be bored without it. But at the same time, then whenever I'm asked like, oh, well, as long as you're doing this, maybe will you cut back on educating? I love educating. Like someone texted me in the middle of my clinical day the other day about something, and I had just left a room with a nursing student, and you could see not only the growth from the first week to now we were in week 5, but you see those gears turning and you see their face when they get it and when they're able to put the different facets together to be able to answer my questions about what is your priority problem? What are we going to do about it? Like, which interdisciplinary teams are we calling in? Which medications do you anticipate that this physician is going to need? And what would we see here if this patient was decompensating? And when they're starting to be able to answer my questions and they get it, I get such a high because yes, it's working, So I'm like I said, when in our little conversation prior to this starting, I love nursing because there's so many things to do with it.
Yeah. I want to back up because I want to dive into that, but I want to back up just a minute on staying bedside because there are different camps, some people that want to stay, some people that don't want to stay. But I do think, and you can tell me if you agree with this, that the culture in your department matters.
Yeah,
it just matters. It matters.
I thought you were going to be an OB.
No. I'm just saying the culture in general matters because if you're in an amazing culture, right, you're going to want to stay bedside, not only for the patients, but because I'll be, I know I've been around. So in different facilities. And when you show up There are some departments whose culture is just, amazing and exciting and collaborative and helpful. And then there are some cultures that you just get stuck in that are just not the greatest. And when that happens, people are the turnover rate is much higher. That's what I'm getting at, is that you have to show up to a place that you want to show up to, not only for the job, but like it makes it easier to show up to work when you have an environment that engages, a great conversation or a great group of people. Is that the case for you? I'm going to guess that yes, that's the case for you.
I would say, and two different ways come to my mind right away to answer you yes. The first one is the people around me that I work with. It's interesting because, like, do I see them outside of work? Not often. And if I leave there, I could honestly say maybe a handful I'll stay in touch with. I'm not going to paint some picture for you like, oh, we're all best friends.
Yeah.
Not all the time. I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say, like, when I ask for switches at work, because I need to, change my days around because I am navigating having a family, outside of here. And I want to make sure that I'm at every single person's event and, this and that. They're always there for me. But more importantly, labor and delivery is a high risk for a reason. And you're often, 1-to-1, patient ratios for a reason. It can turn, I don't want to say bad, but it can turn stressful. It can turn high acuity. It can turn on a dime.
Right.
We, as a culture on my unit anyways, I can say we navigate that so well. And we talk about it all the time. It does not matter what is happening. It doesn't matter if we're, maybe a little short staffed because some people have called in, or whatever the reason might be, or more patients showed up than we expected. If anything happens, I just know everybody jumps in and everybody helps one another. And it doesn't matter if these two nurses really, dislike each other, or there's maybe some disrespect between a physician and a nurse. Those things are going to happen on every single unit. I don't care what you say. Everybody jumps in and we work like a well-oiled machine. And I am thankful for that, especially in reviewing cases now and seeing, what I see in different cases. I'm just thankful for how the unit works and how it does. It makes me excited to come to work, excited to work with the people I work with. They take having, good outcomes and being very delivering great care to the patients seriously. And so I'm very thankful for that. Even my manager lately has been she's newer to the position because, like you said, there's been turnover everywhere. She has been really trying to enforce AWHONN staffing guidelines, which AWHONN is basically our governing organization over obstetrics and women's health. Those haven't been enforced anywhere for a long time, just because they're hard to enforce. It makes a lot of patients 1-to-1, and there's just hasn't been the budget for that for a long time. Yeah. It's important to her that our patients have that. If that is what AWHONN is saying is what's best for the patient, then that's what she wants to provide, and she fights for that. As a nurse, I can't ask for much more.
Yeah. That makes a big difference. Then you absolutely answer my question. It's not that necessarily, we have parties all the time and we get together all the time, but it's you always have my back. Management has your back, and you show up to work knowing that you can do your best because you have, those surrounding you to help you do your best.
Right.
So that's what keeps you showing up. So you absolutely answered that question. Okay, so let's dive into your educating. So it's funny because yes, your schooling kind of, you painted the picture of your future, right? Your education, your business. So educating, when did you start taking on that role? How long into your career?
It was, well, so I originally did not really think I would get a master's degree. And then the organization that I work for increased the amount of, what do I want to call it, where they basically give you a education stipend.
Yeah.
And so I thought I would be silly not to do this because I don't know, that I will physically be able to do bedside forever. Right. So I should just get the degree while I can, while my own children are not in college, and then at least I have it. So I get this master's degree, and then I thought, now I have kids going off to college. I have to pay some school loans or pay for school, I should say.
Yes.
So what should I do? And I was like, I have 4 days off a week. I could be a clinical instructor. And so I kind of applied on a whim where I got my degree from, and I thought I'll just give this a try. I don't know if I'm going to love it, but it has to be like precepting at work, which I do love, but on a bigger scale.
Right.
And so I started doing that like a year and a half ago. And they came to me and said, okay, we absolutely want to hire you, but we know you're OB. Would you mind doing fundamentals? And I said, like fundamentals, like where you learn how to like say hi to somebody and wash your hands. And they were like, yes. And I was like, yeah, sure. Not a problem. And she's like, okay. She's like, you'd feel comfortable? And I said, I think I got it. I think I can do it. And she said, okay, great. She's like, you'll be getting your offer letter this afternoon. And so I get my offer letter and it says, hi, Maureen, so great talking to you this afternoon. Please accept this position into med-surg to, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, what? So I reached back out and I said, I think maybe there's been a mistake. I said, because it says med-surg 2, and I applied for the OB. Right. And they said, yes, but actually due to enrollment, we don't need an OB at the moment, but we don't want to pass up the opportunity of having you. Could you do med-surg? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I was a little nervous thinking I'm a little far removed from med-surg nursing. And I do not want to let these students down. Yeah. I bought books about you can be a med-surg clinical instructor. I reached out to some med-surg clinical nurses I know, and I was like, break it down for me, whatever. Right. And then I met with the lead instructor, and she's like, Maureen, no matter what, you know more than they do. So you are good to go. Right. And I just dove right into it. And I could not be more thankful that I did. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it makes me a better nurse, bringing all of those conditions, and comorbidities really back to the forefront. Sure. There are things, some of them are things I do deal with in labor and delivery. When especially being the center that I work at, we do have patients with congestive heart failure and diabetes and renal failure and things like that. But I'm on a post-op floor, so I have many patients who are status post-Whipple and all sorts of surgeries due to their cancer diagnoses that I'm not dealing with, So in the beginning, I was kind of leaning on the nurses there to say, tell me a little bit more about this or that. But also I just adopted a practice very early on where I would say to the students, after you've gotten report, just let me know which patient is yours. And in that time, while they were kind of working with their nurse, I was behind the scenes in Epic, looking up the patient from top to bottom, looking up meds I didn't know, looking up the procedure. And when I went up, I was just ready to go. And I've really I love it. I think, like I said, I've grown a lot right along with them, and they probably don't even know it.
Totally. I can totally see that. I know that I have, it's a similar story, but it's not quite as similar as I took on a role when I got out of management. I needed a lateral salary move. So I was hired as a clinical systems analyst. I was the only RN in the IT department. And most would think, well, you're not doing bedside, you're not. But what happened was I ended up having to be a part of every department in this big LA hospital. And so all of these factors that I hadn't seen in my clinical environment, because I was strictly in the OR, I became a better nurse because I was able to see the workflow, and I had to whenever there was, we used CRNR there. Whenever there was a CRNR issue, I would have to go up to the floor and I would have to speak both languages, the IT and the nursing. And so I learned a lot from the nurses on the floor of why they need it to show a certain way or why the flow sheet needs to be this way and what's not shown. So I became a better nurse through the IT world, which it just doesn't make any sense on paper. But I understood the ins and outs of floor nursing, of ICU, because I needed to make sure that their vitals crossed from CRNR, from their machine to CRNR, things like that. But I felt like I became a better nurse understanding what other nurses were going through the IT world, which again makes no sense. But I did, because I had only known the OR.
All of our interactions make us a better nurse. It's not to say that what we do becomes monotonous, because like you said, in the OR, you're going to have different challenges every day. In labor and delivery, I'm going to have different challenges every day. But even within those, we've done a lot of things similar.
Right.
Over the last however many years. So when we really step outside of our comfort zone and do something totally new, it does make you a better nurse.
Yeah.
I even feel like within doing, this expert witness role, it's made me a better nurse.
Yeah, I agree. That was going to lead me into the next question.
Yeah.
So we've decided to fill a few of our extra hours as a clinical instructor. And then now we're on this legal nurse consulting podcast, which means that we've gone into the legal nurse field. How did that come about for you? Tell me the story and how that came about for you.
Well, remember, clinical instructors are only really there. I'm there 4 hours on Wednesday and then like one clinical a week, and they're off at Christmas and spring break and all summer. So I still have a lot of time. And I got kids in college, so they're gone. And, so I'm like, I still have time. But either way, I'm somebody who, what's actually really funny is the kid who didn't want to become a pediatrician because I thought that was way too much school, has basically never stopped going to school since I became a nurse.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I've received like 3 different certifications as a labor and delivery nurse, and I, keep redoing like my A1 certifications, and I go to like other classes and things. And so I'm somebody who at work, I very much will, say, okay, what's our plan? And then when they give it to me, it just, I'm sure as you have seen, this doctor or this physician can say something today, and then this physician says something completely different the next day. And so I have no problem pulling my chair up and being like, so teach me why.
Right.
Because I just want to understand. And so that one, who is the patient going to really ask questions to? Me. Because I'm with them all day. But also I have to just understand in my own mind why it is that I am doing the things that I'm doing. Or in an hour when their husband comes or their family member comes, I am able to articulate in a very articulate manner, say, now we've decided to do XYZ with your lovely wife, daughter, whatever it might be. So I think it's really from that behavior that I had one physician at work and then a different physician in MFM, without even talking to one another, say to me, Maureen, have you ever thought about reviewing legal cases? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, but I don't even know how you get into that or like how you do that. And they're like, just make me a CV get me a fee schedule, and I'll get your word. I'll get your name out. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what a CV is. I'm old.
Right.
I have a resume.
Right.
I don't even know what a fee schedule is, and so, they had also done the same thing to another nurse that I knew. And so that nurse sort of sent me theirs and sort of got me, gave me the idea of what I was looking for and told me about a couple of Facebook pages I should join. And so I went on there and sort of got my head wrapped around what this looks like. And that one physician in particular reached out to some firms that he worked with and said, I've got this outstanding labor and delivery nurse, and she would be great for reviewing cases. And, we are working together on a bunch of cases. Consider using her as an expert witness. And he threw my CV and my fee schedule out there. And that, to me, really helped kind of get the ball rolling for me. I've been pretty lucky in that way. But the other thing that I think kind of helps out within this work is just talking to people. I've made such great, I want to say friends. Then again, I think everybody is my friend, but I just
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love talking to people and getting to know them. And it's, I think you would probably agree that it's a very supportive community. And so once you get to talk to people and they're like, hey, would you like to, I got this case, or I heard about this case, they need somebody in OB. Would you consider looking at it? And then you're like, yeah. And then you get sent this case. Oh, it's fun. It's so fun to dig through it and see what happened and be like, well, was the doctor called at this time? And, I can tell you that the doctor was at the bed this many times. And, just looking through it and figuring out exactly what happened.
Right.
I feel like it's such important work. I feel like one of the first questions I get asked by the attorneys when they interview you is, what made you go into this? And I'm always like, well, I think I kind of went into it thinking that might be fun. But after I started doing it, I realized what important work it is. From a plaintiff standpoint, whenever I'm involved on that side of the case, after I've reviewed the case, if I've decided that, it is something that I can support, my mindset is usually that this is extremely important that this type of care doesn't continue. But from a defense standpoint, when I'm on that side and I've reviewed the case and I've already decided this is something that I absolutely can support, because we obviously work on both sides and see cases of all kinds. I see the same thing where I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a situation that, all the right steps were taken, and it's unfortunate that there was still a bad outcome, but that happens. There are bad outcomes. And so that work is just as important, because there's a lot of very hardworking practitioners out there. So it's just important work that needs.
I love that you said that, because I will say that this week, in my own world, in my own clinical world, yesterday, you could hear me in the hallway just preaching. I was having a discussion with our clinical educator, and we're trying to come up with this solution to a problem. And I get very passionate, and she gets very passionate. And she was like, don't be mad at me. I go, hey, I'm not mad at you. I just am passionate about it. And so I think because of this work, it has become, more visible. Things have become more visible. And then, you have this, I feel like you have this obligation that now that we have this knowledge, that we have an obligation as nurses to ensure that, our nursing staff is protected, that they understand the other side of it. And so I have found myself very much being aware of that, and it making me a better nurse as well
Yes,
in
I
my
have as
own
well.
environment that I've been in for 20 something years.
Yes, I have
So,
in my own work, but I've had people even come up to me at work and be like, Maureen, since, I know what you do. And I'm like,
yeah.
and then they'll be like, what do you think I should do, about this? And then I'm happy to like just say that, first of all, there's 5 opinions on everything, right?
Sure.
They could get, my opinion is not the be all end all. I would never say that it is.
Exactly.
But I would just say, like, you should absolutely chart in the moment and, all the things.
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah.
Just reminders, guys. It's just a reminder. These things.
Right.
Just a reminder.
Right.
Yeah. Because it's it's a difficult job. There are a lot of things to know and remember and do right. And there's a lot of pressure. And so, we want to make sure that our nurses are doing the right things. And, sometimes it's challenging,
Right. I think the other reason why we get maybe more protective over the nurses that we work with is because we know they're good nurses, or we know the intent. You know what I mean? And we know what kind of units we work on. If we didn't feel comfortable with the care being given there, we wouldn't continue to work there. But since we do, we just get we just hold them to a higher standard.
That's it. That's exactly it. They hold them to a higher standard. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. If only we could work everywhere and hold everyone to a higher standard. Right. That's our mission. We all are, all of us legal nurses, arm in arm across, the globe, trying to hold everyone at a higher standard. Okay. So you dove into this and you have totally loved it. What is a day in the life of Maureen look like in the legal world? Are you actively marketing yourself? Is most of your business come from these referrals, like physician referrals, or other firms that you've already worked with? What does that look like for you? Because everybody has kind of a different approach to their business, or it just, some things have fallen in their lap. Or
I do try to keep track of where each case comes from, just so that I kind of know, especially moving forward from a business model, like what is worth, next year, let's say, what is worth continuing with? Do I want to be posting on LinkedIn? Do I want to, have a membership with LNC Exchange? Do I want to have a membership over here or there? And I do feel like the majority of things comes from I want to say the broken record that we're hearing from, not only from the majority of your guests, but just, from any conversation that you have with another legal nurse, which is exposure. Yeah. So I am a part of, LNC Exchange and the Jerk listservs, and I comment on things on there often, really more with the intention to help other people. Right. When they're posting something saying, how do I get started? Or, how do you make a chronology, or how do you review a case? And when I comment and help them, but yet my signature line is there, that's just somebody seeing it over and over again. Yeah. And then I will have somebody reach out and say, I saw your name on, right. And then they reach out with a case. So I keep trying to get into the LinkedIn world of posting often, but I will tell you, my hat is off to the folks that post on LinkedIn often, because it's a full-time job. It is a lot to post on LinkedIn and keep up with the comments and to come up with thoughtful content, often and whatnot. And so I will do it every now and then, but then once I have, like a couple of cases to do or things going on, then I sort of scale back a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, and then when I get free time, I get back in it a little bit. I try to, still put out there content that I feel like would be useful to either other people who are reviewing OB cases who might find that information useful, or, I oftentimes have students who follow me. I don't let them follow me on like Facebook or Instagram because I feel like there should probably be a line in the sand. But LinkedIn is completely fine because I don't really put my family on there or other things on there. And so I want to have that useful content, but in order to do LinkedIn right, you really need to be actively engaged. You need to be you need to be commenting. And I'm one of those people who like will post in the morning, but then I go to work and I'm not on my phone at work because that's a big no. So I'm not going to be LinkedIn at work. I'm going to be on LinkedIn as a clinical instructor.
You have to make it work. You have to make it work for your schedule. That's the great thing is there is really no wrong way. There's really no wrong way. The fact that you're being visible on the listserv, is valuable clearly because people see you. It is about visibility. It is about connection. It doesn't really matter where that visibility or connection is in the long run. It's just whatever matches your schedule, whatever. Actually, if it's something that you enjoy, I know for myself, I enjoy posting on LinkedIn because it's something that I've been posting social media content, not necessarily on LinkedIn, but on the other platforms for 15 years now. So coming up with content is not challenging as much for me because I've been doing it for so long that it's actually I enjoy that more than other things. So I think it's just whatever, you enjoy, whatever comes natural to you, and whatever fits your schedule, because we're all busy and you, my friend, are very busy and you still have a smile on your face and you're not pulling your hair out and it sounds like you're enjoying life and you're just finding moments to where you're enjoying your kids and being able to travel and enjoy all that. So it sounds like you are well-rounded, right?
Thank you. Yeah. I do. I really am thankful that I don't find going to work, any of those positions, a chore. I just love doing them. Yeah. Even when I, sit down and talk with an attorney, I'm usually like up in the chair, like kind of like getting all fired up. And it's funny because I'll refer to myself as like part of the team. I'm like, so here's what we see, here's what we have. And I even had one of the attorneys say, he's like, I love how you refer to yourself as we. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, I'm all in. I'm like,
I love that. I love that. Well, then they have more buy-in too, because they feel like you are part of the team. It's very smart of you. Okay. Well, we could talk all day, but I don't know if everybody wants to listen all day. So what I would love for you to do is tell everybody how they can find you. Clearly we talked about LinkedIn. So, and this will all be in the show notes, but let everybody know where they can find you.
Pretty much the easiest way is on LinkedIn, but I do have a webpage. It is melegalnurseconsulting.net. There's also .com, so you can try either one that you remember. And you can also just email me anytime, Maureen.EliaRN @gmail.com. I'm very easy to be reached. I usually get back to you right away. Within the day anyways. But that's LinkedIn is probably the easiest way. Yeah. All of those are linked down there.
Okay. Perfect. Well, it's been wonderful to get to know your story more. And I'm sure that you'll connect with even more people out there and they'll reach out and tell you how amazing this conversation was and helpful.
Thank you for having me on.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Thank you for joining us in this fun conversation on the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting podcast. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and empowering as I always do. And I hope that you share this episode with your friends. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you could leave us a review or comment, as I would love to share them in the future episodes. or hop on over into my DMs and send me a quick message. I can be found on Instagram at anna.b.gray, on my website at limitlesslnc.com, and over on LinkedIn at Anna Gray. And I want you to remember, you are limitless. Until next time.